Don't do that, Linda. I need a nap.
Oh, shoot.
All right. Welcome to the special board meeting of the Campbell Union High School District. It is 4:33 p.m. Can we please have a roll call?
Trustee Harris. Trustee
Present.
Harrisman. Trustee Gallagher.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Goitia.
Here.
Trustee Verich.
Here, all along.
Perfect timing. All right. So we're gonna move on to item 1C, the adoption of tonight's closed session agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right. So motion by Stacy, second by Christina. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Trustee Harrismith.
Aye.
Gallagher.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Goitia.
Aye.
Verich.
Aye.
All right. Michelle, are there any public comments on closed session items? If there are, just let me know. Board, we have to rearrange the agenda just a little bit. So I'm going to move us into 3C, the adoption of the agenda. But with the change, I'm going to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with moving 3B, the Pledge of Allegiance, to right now, and then moving 6A up before closed session. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have to do 6A before we go into closed session. That's my motion.
Second.
All right, so a motion by me and a second by Stacy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call, Bob?
Trustee Harrismith.
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Goitia.
Aye.
Trustee Verich.
Aye.
All right, so we have an agenda and a 5-0 vote. Board, if you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
To
the
the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
all.
All right, we're getting better at that. So we're now in item 6A. Thank you for your flexibility in letting us move that up. And I believe Meredith is introducing this.
I will start, and then if Nancy Pfeiffer wants to add in, because this is really the fiscal part, this item is moved up so that the public has the opportunity to review the disclosures. These disclosures are required as part of agreeing tentative agreements, or asking you all to approve tentative agreements, where the county is able to review and basically provide the approval for us, for you board, to accept the tentative agreement. So Ms. Pfeiffer, Nancy, anything else you want to add regarding the disclosures?
Yes, both documents, both AB 1200 for CSCA and SEIU, have been shared with the County Office of Education, have been reviewed by the County Office of Education, and have been deemed that they agree with the information that we have the financial resources to pay for those two stipends off the salary schedule for both groups.
And so again, right now we moved this item up so that the community has the opportunity to review them. And I just had something fall, sorry about that. That the community has the opportunity to review them while we're in closed session before you're asked to take any action when we return.
Great. At this time, we do not have any blue card forms filled out for this item. So we'll go ahead and we'll see if the board has any questions or discussion. If not, we'll move into closed session.
I have one quick question. is this describing this as an action? Is this really just an information item? We don't have to vote on this, right?
That's right. You can go ahead and vote on it, but as you're basically accepting the information, but it is not required.
Do you have a preference one way or another, Meredith?
I think if you don't mind going a motion to accept it, that just solidifies that you all have received it.
Great. Is there such a motion?
I'll move to accept. Or, sorry, go ahead. Give it to Robert.
Robert, Stacy, second.
Second.
That's what I heard. All right. So motion by Robert, second by Stacy. Any discussion? Can we please have a roll call?
Trustee Aerosmith,
Aye.
trustee Gallagher,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Aye.
trustee Goitia,
Aye.
trustee Verich.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Passes 5-0. All right. So the board will now adjourn into closed session. We will be back out shortly. Board, you have the link in your calendar. See you on the other side. right, board, just give me one more minute and we'll get started. Just have to pull up the document. All right, the board is returning from closed session. It is 5:27 p.m. We did not take any action in closed session. For those of you just joining us, we actually did our Pledge of Allegiance before we went into closed session. So that takes us down to item 4A, public comments. The board welcomes comments from the public. If you'd like to speak to the board, please fill out the blue card, digital blue card, which is on our website and on board docs in our agenda. If your item is on the agenda, you'll comment when it comes up, and if not, you'll comment at this time. We do not have any blue card form submissions this evening, so we're going to move on. If board will let me, I'd love to move to item 6B and 6C first, since we have a trustee who may need to step out quickly. That way, board members can vote, and then we'll move to item 5A after that. Anyone not like that idea? Okay, great. So we're now in consideration of item 6B to approve the tentative agreements between the Campbell Union High School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 266, for successor agreement.
Trustees, thank you all for reviewing this tonight and for holding a special board meeting. As you know, we started negotiations with CSEA quite a while ago, and for a period of time reached impasse, and I'm just very pleased that we were able to come back even during these very difficult times to come back together and negotiate an agreement so that we can have that sort of closure for this school year, especially before the school year is over. And so we've got TAs for Articles 2, 8, 9, 10, 12, and it will be a 3-year agreement with reopeners in the 2 following years.
Trustees, any questions, comments, or motions?
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion by Robert and a second by Christina. Any more discussion?
I'd like to thank all the parties involved to bring this to conclusion. I appreciate the fact that everybody's having to work at distance to try and get it done, but thank you very much for the work that went into this.
All right, Dr. Bravo, can we please have a roll call vote?
Trustee Aerosmith,
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Goitia,
Aye.
Trustee Verich,
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you. 6C is to approve the tentative agreements between Campbell Union High School District and SCIU Local 521.
And similarly, we were able to finalize negotiations with SCIU, and because we had this meeting, we were able to bring these forward to you too. Now, I do just want to note that SCIU will be ratifying their agreement on early next week, and so we still wanted to bring this to you to approve, and it's based on their ratification also.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Linda and a second by Robert. Any discussion or questions?
Thank you for bringing this early enough that you can pay as early as possible on these. I know that was a consideration, so thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, Bob, can we please have a roll call vote?
Trustee Aerosmith,
Aye.
Trustee Gallagher,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Goitia,
Aye.
and Trustee Verich.
Aye.
The ayes have it again.
All right. So the motion passes 5-0, and we will move back down to 5A, discussion of communication protocols. So this is an item that I think with the influx of communication that we may receive, it's always a good time to kind of check in. Trustee Brown asked if we could have, I think, a discussion around this. And so I think for today, really, I think the goal is just kind of see what the appetite is to dig a little bit deeper in potentially a refresh of this, to check some of the things that I think we have 2 new board members since we made this, and like when we should do that, right? Is it something we should be doing in meetings in the next month or 2? Is it something that should wait until after the budget development process? And so with that, I hope we can maybe cap this discussion to around 15 minutes, because I know we have staff who, it's Friday afternoon. We have a trustee who's on their way out. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts on all of this?
Stacy, since you brought it forward, what were you thinking?
Well, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge Linda. It's really good to have a English teacher from a past profession write up your board protocols, because this document is quite well written, but I don't think it's very often read, and we don't really we don't hold each other accountable to it. So, and that's okay. That's like the way things are. I'm not trying to pass a judgment or anything like that. But to me, during this time in particular, with so much uncertainty, I think it's really important for us to always be speaking with one voice, and so that we are speaking as the entity that is the board, not as individual board members. And so I think that what I was really looking at was, are there some things that we should pull out of here and maybe make them things that we make an agreement between all of us, that these are going to be the let's say the communication. We don't have to address visiting sites. We're not going to be visiting sites for a while, but some of the communication protocols that we might want to just focus a little bit more on, so that we have some common protocol for how we want to maybe, like I said, communicating out with one voice, how we might want to meet with groups of stakeholders, things like that. Anything else that's necessary. And then, Kiki, before you sign off, the other piece of this I was thinking is that Christina and I are working on the guiding principles for the budget development. So that could be a way for us to incorporate anything that we might want to address, is we can kind of put those into the guiding principles, because we do have some things around communication that we want to bring out. So that was my thoughts on this.
Thanks. Yeah, I do have to go, but I'll make sure to watch so that I can get caught up before next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Linda, Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, first I'd like to acknowledge Moreland, because if you look at the back of the booklet, the Moreland School District's 2015 Governance Handbook was one that I found very useful in working on this. I think that for me, the biggest pitfall is in the little cartoon sketch I created at the end with board member Curall. Because anytime as a board member, if we take a meeting with a group, if that group has an agenda, in other words, if it's a group of people concerned about a thing, it's a really bad idea. If it's a group where you just have a wide variety of opinions, just say, okay, I'm willing to hear what you all have to say. Everybody's going to have a different idea. I'll be happy to hear what you have to say, so long as you understand that I can't respond and I have no power to act without the full board. But if you take a meeting with a group of people who have a particular axe to grind, the mere fact of taking that meeting implies that you have a bias in favor of the people who are complaining, which you may not have. It may just be that you feel that you want to, this is gets too silly. It's just that you may feel that they should have an opportunity to feel heard. But people have an opportunity to feel heard. Anybody can come and address the board in open meeting.
Okay. Yeah. Robert?
Thank you. Thank you for giving Moreland credit. We have to go all the way back to Lori Barugian. It's the one that started that. That was almost 16 years ago. The point that was made that, you know, just listening to a group leads them to believe that you have a bias towards them. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think the caution is that you can't really speak for more than 1/5 of the head, 1/5 of the body. And so that's the hard part. And it's hard to mention that. This came up or was brought forward for us to talk about today because there may or may not have been a problem. I don't know what it was that caused it to come forward, whether somebody had goofed up or somebody had made some, but I don't like beating around the bush. I want to know if I did something wrong, I want to know. And I think that's the way we should all be. But if that's the case, you know, is there some specific language we want to make sure we're aware of, a certain page, a certain rule, a certain, it's okay to be out in the open and talk about what we're trying to do here. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something that came up or that we need to know or that we want to be aware of.
I'm not aware of anybody goofing up.
No, me neither.
Okay.
That's not why I brought it forward. I think that, I think now more than ever, with this particular budget cycle, you know, we do a budget development cycle every year, and it pretty much is the same process every year, okay? They do a budget development cycle where I work. I don't know what the budget development cycle is, and people here don't know what the budget cycle is. It's not, right? But this one, because of how extreme it is, because of the need to do these unprecedented cuts, has got everybody just, you know, everybody on, there's just a certain amount of calming needs to be happening. There's a certain amount of, you know, I want to know now, you know, when are you going to know so that you can tell me? I know you keep telling me that more information is coming. I want to know exactly when this information is coming. So it just seemed to me that from a communication perspective, if we had just followed some of the protocols that we had here and just kind of call them out and make these new agreements, because we can write them down and we have these, but it's the issue of whether or not we're really following them. And I think, and I just think that's the conversation about, and those are, I think, the critical ones, is about speaking with one voice and just being really, really careful about meeting with multiple constituents. I mean, we go to home and school club meetings as part of our job. You know, Bob's invited us to sit in on the site budget meetings so that we're there to listen and things like that, but we're there to listen. We're not there to basically say, well, let me tell you my thoughts on this, right? So I think it's good for us to just all be on the same page of this, know what that playbook is, and then that way there's no need to, as you might be concerned about, Robert, screwing up and getting in trouble and having a public flogging.
Okay, cool. So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that, one, this is coming from a place of just like, hey, we're about to enter probably a gauntlet of communication. So it's not that anyone's done anything wrong or messed up. It's just, hey, this is a good time to remind ourselves of what a past board thought about it and kind of check in and think, how do we feel? And there's probably a couple avenues to do that, right? One is Trustee Brown, I believe, talked about, the resolution that her and Trustee Aerosmith are working on. Maybe some of these principles find their way into that for next week, and we can discuss as a board. And then secondly, there's probably like a bigger and deeper conversation that we could have, right? Where it's version 2.0 and what does it take, and, really fleshing out the I'm more on the side of I'm okay to meet with anyone, but I'll tell them at the front, I'm just going to listen, take notes, and send it on to the rest of the board, right?
Mhm.
We can get into that level of discussion. The question is do you feel that's something we need to do immediately, or is it something that can wait until after June 30th to do the super deep dive?
Oh, I don't think we have the time to
No.
work on the deep dive on the protocols. To me, it was just kind of getting the priority ones out there and just making sure that we're being as effective and efficient as we possibly can as we get to June 30th to approve the budget.
And I think too that we just need to be careful, because in this environment, people are frightened. If they're not frightened, they're anxious. And the desire for reassurance and the feeling that, well, maybe I know this board member well enough, or maybe this board member would kind of give me a sense of whether I need to be concerned about A, B, C, or D or not. People are going to be wanting to reach out to us individually for that kind of thing. And I think we have to be very, very careful. Like Kaylin said, it has to simply be, I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to share information right now. I'm happy to listen to what you have to say and pass it on. But anything beyond that can really open a can of worms in this environment.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that having the benefit of having a pretty laid out calendar that is public and that we're all following, and often we're not getting information, I would say 99% of the time, we don't have any information until that meeting too, right? So it's not like we have secret behind the door stuff. Great. So it sounds like there's some agreement of Stacy and Christina can kind of work some of the stuff in. That can be the document that leads to more conversation. And then future us can figure out what it looks beyond that. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else on this one? Great. Well, thank you, Stacey, for bringing it up and leading the charge with Christina on it. I know it's a lot of work, so thank you.
I just want to lower expectations at this point. I would like to lower the expectations on these things and then exceed them, right?
Yeah, totally. And Linda, last thing I'll add is I've actually shared this booklet with lots of board members outside of our area who are new to the board, just to kind of show, hey, here's how we did it and the process we took. So
Cool.
Your work is living beyond our little borders.
Now,
Cool.
my only legacy and the one I care about is that there's a footrest on our desks, but now we don't have those desks anymore. They're in Africa.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, that's the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
All right. So I heard Robert and I heard Stacy. So motion and second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing
The
none, Dr.
discussion I
Bravo.
would have,
Oh,
the
yeah, go ahead.
discussion I would have is, thank you, Michelle, for all you're doing to keep us organized. We don't get to see you, but we know you're doing it. So thank you.
Yeah. And John too. John was
John,
at the DO until 1 a.m. at our last meeting. So
he
Wow.
loved it though. He said he couldn't think of anything he'd rather be doing.
yeah, that is what he said. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Dr. Bravo, can we get a roll call?
Trustee Gallagher,
Aye.
Trustee Verich,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Goitia,
Aye.
and Trustee Aerosmith has left the meeting.
I think John probably grew his whole beard in that last board meeting.
All right, y'all. Have
And
a
now
great
you're
weekend.
a real IT guy.